All right, we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome. As always, welcome to another session of the Kava Cloud Podcast. This session live out of San Francisco on this Friday night, where we talk about a variety of different topics, different things. But tonight, you guys already know, if you've been watching my channel, I have a very particular interest, especially when it comes to politics. We have a panel of guests, ladies and fellas, joining me tonight, and we're going to be discussing the San Francisco County elections. All right. As always, a lot of you guys do tune into my live shows. I appreciate your support. You guys already know what to do. The best way to support the channel is to smash that like, subscribe button real quick. So you do get notifications when we do go live and you have different shows that fit your interest. Don't forget, this is if you're watching this from IG, a lot of you guys watching, tuning into my shows on different platforms on X, IG, and Facebook. If you definitely want to get the full experience, definitely come over to YouTube, participate in the live chat. We can see your comments and your opinions and the things that you want to share on the live chat, and we will be able to see it and read it out and respond to you guys. If you do want to donate to the channel and share your voice and concerns, the things that we're talking tonight, drop it through a super chat. I'll be able to put it on the screen and we can respond to you guys, any questions you guys may have as a panel, or if you have a direct question you want to ask the people on the panel, you can definitely ask it through a super chat and we'll definitely respond to you guys as well. But as always, I do appreciate you guys always watching, tuning in, and yeah, I think that's pretty much all my YouTube stuff. I just do want to give a shout out to my quick sponsor of my podcast. Shout out to Global Impact Finances. They're a financial business. They can definitely help you out with the different services they have for you. Shout out to Savannah Sanitoa. She has a great team with her, and they can help you guys with tax advantages, college fund for kids, debt management, family bank, teach you guys how to do your own bank, life insurance, to definitely help you guys take care of your families, legacy planning, and business ownership programs to become an entrepreneur. So her info is in the description below. If you need her services, reach out to her. She is a Polynesian business entrepreneur. So if you are Pacific Islander, you want to support other Pacific Islander businesses, definitely reach out to her, and she and her team can definitely help you guys as well. All right, but nevertheless, shout out to her, and definitely for being a great sponsor for my show. Shout out to you guys, and but nevertheless, that's pretty much all my YouTube stuff. I'm excited to hear the topic for tonight because I am a resident of San Francisco, so I do want to hear what's going on with the city. But I'll ask the guests real quick, if you guys don't mind, give yourself a quick intro for everybody that will be watching for tonight, and then we'll go right into the topic with Monica. I'll start with you, Cheryl. Good to see you again. I know it's been a while since we had the last pod in the studio, but Cheryl, give yourself a quick intro for everybody out there.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cheryl Thornton, and I am a community activist. I run the Harriet Tubman African American Democratic Club here in San Francisco. And what we do is a lot of political education, educating people about different ballot measures and in a nonpartisan way to help so that they can figure out which way they should vote.
All right. Thank you so much, Cheryl. We'll keep it moving. Pass it to you, Malcolm. Quick intro for everybody out there.
Hi, my name is Malcolm Sumida. I am an amateur Muay Thai and MMA fighter. I am born and raised in Oakland, California. Here's a shout out to my sponsor, Beast Oakland.
Beast Oakland. All right. And thank you, Malcolm. And Monica, quick intro for everybody out there.
Hey, everybody. It's Monica, and I'm here again. Really excited to talk with Cheryl and also Malcolm about upcoming topics. So I think I'm just going to get right into it. Cheryl, so what about propositions? Like, for other people that don't know what propositions are, like, what are propositions?
Okay, so propositions are ballot measures that they're potential laws. It's legislation that's being put forth for people to vote on so that it can become law and be implemented in a city or statewide.
And so I heard a little bit about Proposition E. And, as a native of San Francisco and somebody that's all about community within San Francisco County, how do you think Proposition E will affect San Franciscans?
Okay, well, I'm gonna talk. I really try to just give people information, to give people information, and so that they can make their own decisions. But Proposition E is a ballot measure that was sponsored by Mayor Breed, and basically, what this proposition does is it gives the police a lot more power, and it's basically they said it so they will have access to the police will have access to like AI cameras in the community. They can put cameras in the community. They'll be able to use robots. They'll be able to do high-speed chases in the community, which right now in San Francisco, you can't do a high-speed chase. And the thing about that's so scary about in this Proposition E about the using of the cameras is because people are worried that, number one, it will be over policing in communities, marginalized communities of color.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have, cameras all over the place doing surveillance, in the community. But the other thing about AI is AI, depending on who creates AI has a lot of bias in it. And so it has a lot of bias towards people of color. And we're really concerned about this being the case. What he also does is it will allow police now to just turn in, instead of having it, like if there's something that happens, like let's say I get into an altercation with the police and there was 2 or 3 other police there, they would all have to write up a report as to what happened. Now, if nobody dies, if you're just, beat up by the police, you would have to just the first officer who was involved in the incident, they would just have to turn in their body camera footage, and you would have to subpoena that footage. And the other officers that were there wouldn't have to give any type of testimony as far as what they saw and heard. And so that there is a lot of police brutality going on here in San Francisco, and as it is. And I'm not sure if you guys were aware of the statistic, but San Francisco actually incarcerates more Black men in San Francisco than they do in South Africa, and that was an apartheid state. So I'm saying is the criminal justice system here, with people of color, Black and brown, they are facing a system that hasn't always been it hasn't always been fair.
I think for the most part, I think a lot of us have seen a lot of these like droids or androids around. I know I have seen a couple of like these police made droids around, not even just in San Francisco, but Malcolm, as a man of color, also Will, as a man of color, how does this make you feel?
Uncomfortable for sure. It does sound like a dangerous situation, as police brutality has been all across the Bay Area and really all of California for many years.
And Will, what about you?
Every time we have a new piece of technology, in my perspective, I think it's always good. But I think the main, I think Cheryl did point it out, the main concern would be the programming of the AI and how it would be able to make those judgments when it does, when something happens, and how does it respond to that situation. So depending on the people that program, I think there was a lot of, I don't know if you guys are online, but there was a big outcry on the AI with the, I forgot which company it was. I can't remember on top of my head. I saw it on Twitter. But when they asked the question, I about historical facts. It lean more in one political direction. So yeah, I think for me it'd be a great tool, especially if it's gonna be able to help out the police to do their job. But as long as if it's don't abuse it, I think, and then be able to make a fair assessment when it comes to judging these situations. I think that's the overall concern. I think that's what Cheryl said. As long as they don't abuse it and it's fair, then it could be a great tool to help the police do their job, because we definitely need the police to do their job. So, but yeah, I agree. If the programming is more centered towards people of color and more marginalized communities, and I think that'll be a concern, and that we got to figure out first.
Right.
The other dangerous part about Proposition E is we don't even know what they're going to be using this technology for.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and so that's the dangerous part. But the other thing is the people that are, just think about this, in the tech industry. Who is in the tech industry? 99.
Mostly not people of color.
Definitely.
Right. Yeah, right.
Over 95% of the people that are in the tech world are white males. So they're the ones that are going to be developing this. They're developing AI.
Yeah.
And so when you develop AI, you bring all your biases into AI. And that's where the racism, the discrimination comes in to it, because they bring it in because that's their mindset. And so we really don't know, but this tool here, I can tell you that having more cameras in marginalized communities, to be watching them, to be using AI to bring up like facial recognition, that's a whole big problem too. Facial recognition and using that to identify people. There's a lot of problems in that area as well. And so that's why it's so dangerous.
You know what I think is actually kind of more interesting in this whole like scenario, right, of what's going on is I actually did read that there's a success rate of 6.6% at predicting crime with this new type of software, but also that a lot of the PD system is from the 1970s. So if we were going to change software, why wouldn't it be like actually for PD like software? Like it's safe to say that all systems, whether it be governmental entities, whether it be organizations, we all use some type of CRM system, right? So CRM systems are systems that we do to collect things, right? Collect data, understand data, use it for our programming, right? Why isn't it using, instead of getting this artificial AI, why aren't we getting actually a new system for PD in general? You know what I'm saying? Like, why spend that money for AI when PD has a system that's from 1970? Like, a lot of the times, and there's a lot of studies on this, like when cops pull people over, there's a mistake in the system in general, right? And so that mistake, this is where the software, if any type of money needs to go somewhere, it would actually just be for the system itself, not necessarily to create new AI systems. I'm not even sure what that's about. And I would say, like, if Proposition E was more so for like creating a new CRM system for like PD, like our PD, like governmental entity, then I would probably be for it. But I don't actually know why we would need an AI system when we're kind of like lacking in a different type of like IT system in a different area. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, why? That's crazy. Like, I think that's kind of like, if Proposition E was for an entire new software system for PD, then that actually would be a come up rather so than for a new AI system to do a policeman's job. I don't know. That's question.
So Okay, so in addition to just the AI piece, because E is not just about AI, it's about police chase, it's about how the police are going to do their job, as far as, not having to write a report where you could go get the report and then you could get, and if you were facing police brutality, you could get a report and you could probably hire a lawyer, but now you're going to have to subpoena that. The other officers that were on the scene that saw it are not going to have to report what they saw. So there's a lack of transparency and a lack of accountability. And there's already a history of police brutality in San Francisco against Black and brown, especially males here in San Francisco by the police department. And so, that is an issue in itself. So that, and then there was a report when I heard Will say, yes, we need the police. Okay, we need the police. But guess what? There's no need for this proposition at this time, because actually crime is down. It's not up, it's down. And so it's really about over policing and incarcerating people. It's the pipeline to prison and incarcerating people that you normally maybe wouldn't be able to do. Who are you watching? What are you doing?
Yeah,
so is a big problem.
So is Proposition E for an entire new software IT system for PD in general, or is it just for?
It's not a software. It's like the kitchen sink. It's for them to be able to do high speed chases through the neighborhood.
Okay.
And it's an ability for them to not have to write reports. They'll be able to use this AI system. It's like a whole bunch of things wrapped up into one. But basically, it's over policing is what it is, and it's no accountability. It's rolling back all the reforms that happened, that the DOJ brought down and said after they killed Mario Woods that they had to put in place. Now you're rolling it back. People are losing their civil rights. Mm-hmm. And as it is, as being a person of color, a lot of time you don't have access to get, if something happens to you that's unjust, you may only have the ability to get a public defender. You may not be able to hire an attorney. Mm-hmm. So this is a problem because it's stacking the deck against the people of color. It's about removing the people of color from San Francisco. That's what this is about.
Yeah. It sounds like it's creating loopholes for the police department.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm reading it online. It says that they don't really have to have any oversight,
right?
When they use this technology. Yeah.
Right.
So that's the main concern.
Mm-hmm.
A little scary.
Yeah.
It sounds similar to the whole stop and frisk.
Because I just have to tell you that because a lot of people who are in San Francisco that this is going to impact are not voting. This is winning. Right now they checked who's voting what's coming back in. And it has a 61% margin in favor of E.
Right.
We need everybody to vote against this because it's going to make it very unsafe for Black and brown men in San Francisco.
Right.
It says if it does pass, then the SFPD can use any technology they want for a full year without publishing any official policy about how they use the technology or allowing community members to voice their concerns or really allowing for any accountability or transparency at all. Right. That's what it says.
It's going to become a police state, militaristic. And what if we have no rights? It's rolling back our civil rights. And so if it does pass, there are some of us on the other side that are going to try to put a referendum on the ballot in November to have this repealed. But, that's not easy to do.
Right.
And so there hasn't been. That's why political education is needed in marginalized communities, because they tend not to vote, and these laws are designed to just for them.
I mean, to be honest, Malcolm, have you heard this in Oakland? Have you heard about Proposition E?
No, no. This is the first I've heard about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing, because this is a very big deal, and it's going to affect a lot of people.
Right. And like for the most part, I think like PIs, like and people in my community, like we wholeheartedly like trust the police, and we really are like for it. I mean, I used to work for SFPD at one point. And so, you know, it's very kind of interesting that we have propositions like this in a big and in a big way. It could be just from a lot of things, but um, I just don't know if this would be like. I think for the most part, people are probably looking at Proposition E and being like, okay, safety, right? Because for a lot of the right now, like it's like I know in San Francisco, there's a lot of robberies and so forth. So,
But violent crime is actually down.
right,
They release the statistics. Crime
right,
is down. It's not
right,
up.
right.
So it's at the lowest point it has been in many years. So crime is actually down. So what is the purpose of putting this proposition, creating this proposition and putting it out there? Why now? If crime is down, see, they have you believing that crime is up, but actually crime is down.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's I mean, like my question is like where is this money coming from? You know, like where is this money coming from?
It's
Also,
dark money of the billionaires, because they want you removed from the city. Just Google the crime statistics in San Francisco. You'll see violent crime is down. I'm not saying it is in Oakland right now. There's something else going on in Oakland right now. But in San Francisco, crime is down.
So it's the violent crimes are down, Cheryl?
Yes.
Oh,
The
what about,
car break-ins are still an issue.
yeah, because I do notice the car break-ins has been rising, especially what I see on social media. You know, a lot of these guys just going around and jacking people's cars in parking lots.
That's happening because there's huge income disparities that are happening here for instance, in San Francisco. And we don't have to go into that conversation, but the fact is, when you look at the income disparity and that's what's driving that. And what you have to do is create opportunities to close the economic the gap between income, but it's getting wider and wider. And so those disparities cause this because people are using that as a mechanism to survive. They're breaking in cars. They're using that as a mechanism to pay their rent, to survive, because these jobs that they're in that are paying $25 or $30 as nonprofit per hour, it's not enough for you to survive in the Bay Area.
That's real. Yeah.
But without going into that, but just Google, you'll see they put something out recently on the crime statistics. They're down.
Man, that's major. I don't know. I mean, for the most part, I know that there's a lot more issues ahead of us in terms of like a county or for all counties. But I just also wanted to know more about Proposition F. So what are your thoughts about Proposition F, Cheryl? I mean, I don't know. I think receiving a cash assistance from those that were for people that are suspected of illegal drug use, like, is that good? Is that not good? Like, what's your take on Proposition F?
I don't know if you want to bring that up on the screen, Proposition F, but Proposition F is mostly about people who are receiving general assistance and have housing here in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And basically they're saying if you're using illegal substances, that you can lose your benefits.
Right.
Now, to some people, they say, okay, that sounds fair. That sounds good, right?
Mm.
But the way that this proposition is written, that people like an eligibility worker, a food stamp worker at
Yep.
HSA, at the Human Service Agency, is just going to look at you and say, I think you know, fit this criteria, and that, you know, we're going to pull your benefits. And if you don't go and get some type of intervention, you're going to lose your benefits. And then 30 days after that, you're going to lose your housing. Now, the problem with this is that there's no way for them to do any assessment.
Right.
There's no way for them to test you to see if you're on drugs.
Right. They're just going to make an idea, like a perception. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
It's
they're
gonna be
just gonna,
perception.
right. They're right. And so you could lose your benefits, you could become homeless, and they're saying you have to get an assessment. Well, you know, I work in the Department of Public Health, and so they would refer the patients, the clients over to us to get a medical assessment. Well, the problem is there's no access, there's no timely access to care. We don't even have enough doctors to see the patients that are there now. So they're not going to get timely access to care. But the other problem with this is you're basically, so the big fight in San Francisco is about harm reduction or forcing people or criminalizing drug use. And this has been done before. And so what happened when they criminalized drug use in the past? Once again, marginalized people went to jail for it. They were criminalized for it. Whereas white people had resources available to them to go to rehab and get out of it.
Got it.
So the thing is we don't have enough, we don't have any treatment beds, we don't have access to doctors. So how are you gonna just have an HSA worker try to look at somebody and say they're on drugs? I mean, I just want to tell you this story. One day I was there at Tom Waddell at the counter helping somebody, and the girl who was there, she kept nodding. And I said, and I thought, is she on drugs? And it turned out that she was suffering from anemia. It turned out that that's why she kept nodding. It has nothing to do with drugs. Well, this mother, in her situation, and this law wasn't even in place yet, because she had this medical condition, she overslept, she didn't pick her kids up, CPS was called, they removed her kids, they were put in foster care, and then eventually they were returned back to her. But how traumatizing was that to the kids? You see what I'm saying? And can you imagine what's going to happen to people who don't have the resources to fight back, to advocate for themselves? And so why are we criminalizing these people? Well, a lot of these people are on drugs because they're homeless, because they have nowhere to live. Can you imagine being on the streets with not a roof over your head?
Right.
You might be using drugs too. So this is not the way. We need more treatment beds. We need more behavioral health, access to mental health. We need more timely access to medical care so that people can get into medical care. And you need to give people hope and empower them. San Francisco, with all these businesses closing, there's vacant buildings. So why are we having people on the streets?
That is a good question.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on this, Will? What's your thoughts
about the Proposition F?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just reading it online. It says that's it's requiring drug treatment for cash aid. That's pretty much what it is, right, Cheryl? So they go into, they give them, they require them to go get drug treatment, but they pay them for cash. So, I mean, ultimately, I think for me, I do want to find a solution. There is, I think, Being a resident here in San Francisco, I do see there is a concern about people being safe just walking in the streets. So, but yeah, ultimately, I don't know if I don't know if that's going to be the solution. If that's going to incentivize people to improve their life so they can get off the streets and find a home and find some a stable employment so they can get back on their feet. So I don't know. I don't really know if that's going to be the solution to do it, but I don't think so. Because in my opinion, if people who are in the streets, they're in survival mode. So um, they're just doing it. If they're gonna get cash to go to get treatment, they'll use the opportunity to get cash to survive, like Cheryl said. But I
Well,
don't think,
what it is currently you get GA. I think
yeah,
it's $600 and something a month is what you get, and then you
yeah,
get an SRO. So this is what the basic need for you to survive here in San Francisco. And they want to remove that basic need. They want to remove your GA, your income that would feed you, whatever, your food stamps. They want to remove that. And then 30 days later, they want to remove your housing if you don't get treatment. But the
yeah,
problem is we don't have any treatment beds. There's none available here in San Francisco. The
yeah,
problem is we don't have access to doctors. So you need medicine like methadone, buprenorphine to get off of these type of drugs so that you'll stop using. But if you don't get access to a doctor, how are you going to stop?
yeah. So yeah, I guess that's what the way I see it is. Is it gonna empower them to get off the street and so they don't, you know, end up living in the streets? And I don't think this is what's gonna do it. So
Now,
that's not.
if your parents are wealthy or middle class, they're resourced. Let's say I'm a white person and my parents, I came out here from the Midwest and I'm out here on drugs and my parents come and rescue me and I have resources because they have access to private insurance and different things, doctors, they have resources. They're going to be able to get a treatment bed. They're going to be able to clean up because people do clean up.
Yeah.
And they're going to have that access, whereas people of color who don't have those resources are not going to have access. They're going to be, what's going to happen is going to fuel more crime. They're going to be on the street homeless, and they're going to do more crime trying to survive. And then where are they going to end up? In the prison system.
Mass incarceration. So I feel like what I'm hearing is like, okay, so like Will, you're saying like, even if you give folks like this, it may not stop what's happening. But also what I hear from you, Cheryl, is that like not giving that option is inequitable because some people don't have any other option. Malcolm, what's your take?
I don't think it's going to work.
Mhm.
I think that similar to what Will said, it just doesn't seem like it's the answer to the problem.
And what do you guys think would be an answer to the problem?
Well,
Yeah, go Cheryl.
I was going to say, what you have to do is you got to encourage people, you got to empower them to want to change their life. And so part of that is giving them access to mental health services, giving them access to medical treatment, just like Monica, Dr. Abs,
I know.
and Dr. I can't right now. Her the other one, the name escapes me, but the work that they're doing to try to give people a fighting chance. So give them these state-of-the-art drugs that help people to fight their addiction. Give
Right.
them access to medical mental health treatment. Give
Mhm.
them access to decent housing. Give
Right.
them access, and once they turn their life around, they'll want to be empowered to go to school or to get a better job and to pull their life up. A lot of people don't want to be on drugs. They just have no way out of it.
Yeah, for sure. And so do we have any ideas? What do you think would be an idea, Will, Malcolm?
I don't know, because the thing is, like, you can give people access, but they have to have the will to go through with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like
You
there's a
know,
self-efficacy that needs to be there in order to want to do something.
especially something, to get something over as strong as drug addiction. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Malcolm. Like, 'cause the change is has to be on them. Like, they want to change. So, but I do agree. We have to get them off the street. So I do agree with Cheryl. Like, we have to give them some housing so they can get off the street, so they can get a change of environment. So that way they can have a better influence to go through that process of change for themselves. So if you can't change if you're always in the same environment, but yeah, I think housing, and then also just finding ways to get them back on their feet financially, so they can have a steady income. But but
There,
but it's gonna be tough because people who've been in the streets for a long period of time of their lives. It's gonna be really really hard to get back into reality, get back to like a steady regular job. So I don't really know I don't really know what's the solution, but I do know that they do need housing to get them off the street, so that way the people in the public, so the people who are in the streets walking, with their families, so they can feel safe, but also give them access to employment. But ultimately, it's still going to come down to them that really want to. They have to be able to make that change for themselves. So, I, my own personal experience with people, just dealing with people in the street, a lot of times they know that's all they like. They've been living that way for their whole life. So it's really hard to get acclimate back to normal life. So it's challenging. So it's going to require a lot of different solutions. So I don't really know I don't think there's going to be one solution to fix that problem, especially if we want to fix it in a short period of time. It's gonna be a long fix, not a short one.
Does anybody here have like friends or family members that they know that's been on drugs?
so I have a friend that was on drugs most of his adult life, heroin. He was shooting heroin and smoking crack cocaine. And what led him into this is that as a small child, he went into the foster care system. No parents. And then when coming out of the foster care system at 18, he was dumped on the streets of San Francisco. Nowhere to live, nowhere to go, nobody. And so he started really using drugs to blot out the pain of his life. So at age 50, after losing his hip, he finally hit rock bottom and went through treatment and got off of drugs. And he's been clean now for 10 years. He's in school studying tech. It took a little longer for him because he thought he was going to get a hip replacement, but unfortunately his hip was too damaged from the drugs, so he could not get a hip replacement. And so, but now that's all behind him. He doesn't have a hip, but he has a, what do you call that? He's got a device so that he can walk. He's on a walker. But he was able to I've seen it. I've seen people come off of these drugs, and he's not the only one. So the thing is that you guys hit the nail on the head. You have to want to get off of these drugs.
Right.
Number one. But some people do want to get off of the drugs, but they don't have the resources to get off of the drugs, the support. You got to have the support to get off. When they're ready, you got to be there with the support.
Right.
True.
Yeah. I wonder if San Francisco, if they're looking at it, like when they talk about fixing this, do they want a solution that's going to be immediate, or are they really investing into a solution even though it may take a long period of time. I don't think this, the solution to this is going to be immediate. It's going to happen quickly. It is going to require for them to change and to be able to get back on their feet. It's going to take a process for them, maybe a couple of years for them. So, yeah,
let me ask you this question, Will.
Yeah.
I work in the Tenderloin,
Yeah.
5 days a week. And what I see is people who there's open air drug deals going on.
Yeah.
Drugs are rampant through the community. These drugs are coming in here. Where's the police? Cracking down on all this drug stuff floating around in the streets. What's happening?
Yeah.
Right. That is a good question. I'm actually kind of, also, like, are even police allowed to touch the homeless? Isn't there something where police actually can't, like?
It's not just the homeless. There's, Monica, you worked in Tenderloin. Right there on Golden Gate, you see open air drugs deals going on all day long.
Yeah.
There's no police there to shut any of that down.
No.
The drugs that are coming into the city through the ports, through the ships, through the borders, who is stopping it?
It's questionable. Yeah.
Even if the police did like arrest everybody that's doing these open air deals, do you think the police have the capacity to only jail them and put them into the system?
The thing is, the rich are making a lot of money off of these drugs.
Yeah.
And no one's talking about that. Who is making all this money off of these drugs? These little drug dealers on the street, they're making money to survive. But come on, the big suppliers, there's nothing, we don't hear of any drug busts.
Yeah.
Tell me, when's the last time you heard of a big drug bust here in San Francisco or Oakland or anywhere?
Mm-hmm.
What are the police doing?
Yeah.
They're criminalizing people for addictions when they should be trying to stop the drugs that are coming in here, stop the manufacturing of drugs that are happening. They're not doing that.
Yeah.
They know where the drugs are coming from. They know exactly where they're coming from, but they're not doing anything about that.
Yeah. It's major.
Do you guys know the consequence if they do arrest people that dealing with drugs openly? Like, what's the consequence if they do get trialed and into the system? Like, is it a couple of years, a couple of months? I don't know.
Well, I think regular possession of drugs, possession of controlled substances, is more of a lower level misdemeanor, whereas the possession for sales is still a felony.
Okay. So the lower level misdemeanor, they'll just get.
It's like catch and release.
Catch and release, yeah, okay. Yeah, because what I hear from because I have from the side of the police side, if they do arrest them, and then they'll just get back on the street anyway, and then they're gonna do it again the next day. So it's like, so what's this? So for me, it's like, what's the most effective way to stop this if they're just gonna get back on the street anyway?
Yeah, and honestly, for the lower level misdemeanor, just regular possession, it'll just be a citation and a court date.
Yeah. So I don't know.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah,
it's a lot to think about, but it's also
but see, this goes back to why people are dealing drugs in the first place.
Right.
And we can't go all the way back, but the education system is failing our youth. Mm-hmm. And they're not coming out of school being prepared.
Right.
To go on to college. We talked about this already, Will, in a previous conversation. And so you have to survive. And so this is what the path that a lot of them are led down. And so that's another issue. And so, if we want to change things, we need to invest in our young people so that give them quality education. Education is not equal. Right here in San Francisco, the schools are segregated. If you go to school on the west side, you're going to have a better educational outcome if you go versus you go to the school on the southeast section of San Francisco, because the resources, the quality of teachers, all this leads into crime.
Right. And Malcolm, how is the education in Oakland? Do you have any knowledge of that?
I mean, I think the issue goes deeper than just education because, especially young men of color, we all have things that we're asking for.
Oh, Malcolm, you just went blank.
I was hanging on his words. It sounded good. He's right. It does go deeper than that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess a lot of people, I mean, based on the people that I talk to here in San Francisco, so, the making sure that the next generation gets resources for education. Yeah, I think that's going to be
It's a big thing.
Oh, there you go, Malcolm.
Sorry about that.
You good? You good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what were you saying again?
Yeah, I think it's bigger than education because I think there needs to be more youth-funded programs just all around. You need to give the youth a fighting chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And would you say that, do a lot of youth that come from obviously underprivileged backgrounds, do they have two parents? Do they not have parents? Do they have mentorship? Is that the reason why these programs are needed?
100%. There is definitely a lack of mentorship all around, especially me coming from a martial arts background. If I didn't have that martial arts background, I might be another statistic. You know what I mean? And that's one thing, but unfortunately, all the programs that are good for the youth, they're not cheap. Underprivileged youth's family cannot afford them.
Right.
So I'm here right now at Third Baptist Church. We have Friday Night Live, and some of the kids that I'm mentoring, they're from the Potrero Hill. And this one family, the mother is Tongan and Samoan, and the father is Black African American. Neither parent graduated from high school. And so that's an indicator. That's a big predictor, because the programs and their parents, there's the fact that they didn't graduate from high school. Okay. So they're limited to how they can help their children. And the expectation is it's normalized that if people don't graduate from high school, that's normalized. The father, he's a good man and everything. He has a job. He works as a busboy. He does that. He takes care of his family, his children. There's 4 of them. There's 4 kids. But the kids, we had to rescue them. They were involved. They got on the BART, went to San Leandro. They got into some issue with some Asian person, took their cell phone, and they ended up in the criminal justice system. And just because I knew the auntie and had heard the story, I got the pastor involved, and we were able to get those kids released back to San Francisco. But the point of it is that this is what happens, because even with these after-school programs, the lack of the education in the families. There's not a big expectation for you to go to college. And so there's not an expectation for you to go to college. How are you going to survive? How are you going to take care of yourself?
Right. Especially if you don't have the family support or background, and it's all based on money. So really socioeconomic status, which is money, is a big deal. if you don't have that, then you don't have a lot here. Like you don't have that, you don't have health, you don't have nothing. Like you don't even have security for kids that you bring into this world, and I think for the most part what I'm hearing is like these programs can help those that are less fortunate to be in that situation. And kudos to you, Cheryl, because I have heard about these kids and other kids that the church supports, and I think that's like amazing. And also,
well, I just want to say this too. I just want to add this. Half
Mhm.
of the families that live in Betrayal Hill don't even have a lease. They're just living up there. And so they could become homeless. This is what I'm saying. And they have children that are living in the household. They're living on the edge like this.
Yeah.
And there's crime all around them because nobody has resources. So, that's another thing that San Francisco has practiced residential segregation, meaning where you put people all together, you group them into public housing settings where all this crime would occur instead of spreading people out and not putting them in public housing. So there's just it's a very deep issue.
Right. Which I definitely wanted to chime in a bit into Proposition I. So what is Proposition I, and should we be concerned about Proposition I? Is that something that we shouldn't do? Should we not do?
So Proposition I, I'll just tell you this. It's a statewide measure. So it's for all the counties to vote on.
Right.
And it's about the conservatorship of putting people in the mental health system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we did ask for this because we know that clearly there's people that are walking around the streets that are clearly mentally ill and they need some medical attention.
Right.
But for whatever reason, Proposition I is about to fail. Only 10% of the voters have voted in favor of Proposition I.
Why do you think that?
We definitely need something. I just think that people don't understand or don't know or don't understand the proposition. I'm not sure. But we're talking about being safe on the street. Clearly these people who are mentally ill, delusional, are danger to society. They need to be locked up in the sense, I'm not saying in jail, but they need to be somewhere in a place where they can be getting the help that they need. They can't clearly be walking around the streets.
Right. And like, I don't know, like it's such a switch. And do you think that it's because of, like, obviously we're all from the Bay, right? And I know, and everybody I feel can see that there's been an increase in regards to homelessness. Now, do you think that this Proposition I maybe not, like it's not as appealing to the communities of all counties here in the Bay based on the fact of that?
I just think that people are not educated on what's going on as far as these propositions, period.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of marginalized communities are not even voting.
Right.
I think they just vote pretty much for the presidential thing. They're not paying attention to what's happening to here locally.
Literally. And what do you think could be, what do you guys think about that? Will, Malcolm, do you think that there's truth to that?
Yes, definitely. I think that it's always the local elections are always overlooked. And voting on the propositions is what actually changes life.
Right. And sorry, go Will. Sorry.
No, yeah, I didn't even know about the local elections and the propositions until I met you. So, I mean, that's just a reality. So I had no idea that this even existed. I mean, I did hear it because of the advertising, every single time I go on social media, there'll be some advertising about the local propositions, but
Yeah.
um, I never had any. I didn't really go into it until I met you, and you learn a lot more. Than I met Cheryl,
Mhm.
I learned a lot more. So yeah, it's something now. And now I'm living in San Francisco, so I'm a lot more engaged in it because it does affect me, the quality of the city I'm living in as being a resident. So I do want to know what's going on and to make sure. San Francisco is a lot different compared to 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
a lot different. So I like the city. I love living here, but it is a concern to me seeing the rise in with the homelessness and open use of fentanyl on the streets that I see every day, just going to work.
Mhm.
So I think people with families, just trying to have to live here and raise, live a good life. Again, I know that a lot of people are concerned what's going on with San Francisco.
Right. It's so crazy because I don't even think that they actually like put this in school. Obviously, there's something going on here. When you're in grade school, high school, and stuff, you learn political science. So you learn a little bit about government, but you're not actually like gamed up on like the government that actually matters to you, unless you went further into your education on that, whether it be in political science or government in some type of governmental entity. um so it's almost as if like this is information we have to seek ourselves. And I think, Cheryl, what I'm hearing from you is that creating more programming on educating adults as well as like youth about like local and state governmental like systems is really important. Like, am I wrong? Do you think that that's a good I think that's what I hear, Cheryl.
I think she froze.
Cheryl.
Yeah, must be her connection.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that that would pretty much be a better idea or better use of like, time and effort we have all this money going here and there and nobody knows what it's for. Like, like we sat here and talked about three pop propositions, literally, and like it was great to have the conversation about these propositions because they're actually real. And like a lot of the times you'll hear it on like TV, like you'll hear it on a commercial. People will talk about it, and some of them will talk about it in Spanish, and nobody knows exactly what that is, right? Unless you're Spanish. But even if you are Spanish and you're listening to this like market media like proposition, you're not even caring. You're just working to survive. So you don't actually care about the actual like system that's in front of you that's you can actually be a part of, right? And so like I think like my conversations about like having like this idea of this duality when it comes to like governmental systems, right? On a political level, it's duality because there's only two, right? But the truth is like it's such a crime because you don't even understand that you're focusing on the wrong system. Like the system, the bigger system is great. And I think for the most part, when it comes to like presidential systems, like on a national level, everybody wants to be involved in that. Everybody should be involved in that. But the truth is like we missed step A and B before we got to C. A lot of people don't know about the election, the local elections that are actually necessary for you to understand, and then the state elections that comes next. And unfortunately, I don't know, hopefully Cheryl hops on in the next minute or so, but she can talk a little bit more about the state level. But maybe this is probably enough. I think this was like a really good conversation in terms of like figuring out that there's gaps. There's gaps in our knowledge as minoritized people. And Carol, you're back on again. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I was just kind of breaking it down and like pretty much like talking about like how we as a system as minoritized people, right? We understand the C, but we forgot the A and the B in terms of understanding that our governmental system is actually more for us leaning towards the local government system and these policies, then going into state, but everybody seems to just chime into the like national level understanding of policy. And it's almost as if like we skipped A and B just to go to C and see one thing from one thing only. So I think I like after having this conversation, like I think that it's fair to say that like having more programs that teach adults as well as youth on the importance of local local government systems and your state government systems are actually considerably more important than we actually think it is. What is your thoughts?
For sure, for sure. We need more political education, civic engagement. Hi. Okay.
I just had one question I want to ask. I know before we conclude, do you think there should be a more focus? Because I don't know. I know you guys all see it, but there's a lot of businesses in San Francisco closing down, and also in Oakland. I mean, in Oakland, there's a lot of businesses closing down in Oakland as well. Do you think there should be a focus? I know we're talking about the homelessness and the people who are getting affected, but I think there should be a big priority to make sure that we incentivize these business owners to stay, because I do believe that the businesses have a big impact with the community. That's where we go and buy our groceries. That's where we go buy our drugs. I saw something online where the local Walgreens were in a specific neighborhood in San Francisco where most of the elderly people get their drugs, had to close down because of robberies and the homelessness just going in there and taking stuff from the store, and there's no consequences because it's below the was it the $700 $900 limit, where you could, as long as it's below that limit, the police can't really do anything to you.
Mhm.
But I think I think that's something that as a resident here, I think that's something that probably at the same level concern with the homelessness and the drug abuse that's going on with the city, because we need the businesses here. That's where people go to work. That's how people get their jobs. That's how people get employed. But that's also the places where a lot of the people that will live here, that's where they get their food. That's where they get their drugs and the things for their households. But if they all leave because of what's going on here, I think that's also going to have a negative impact in the community, and that might encourage them to keep doing the same crimes and the same things that we see that's happening right now. So, that's just something I've been thinking about. But I think San Francisco needs to get these business owners to stay here and incentivize yeah.
So, Will, it's bigger than that. I employ you to go take this class at City College called California Labor. First of all, this is all about capitalism and profit. And brick and mortar stores are over with.
Yeah,
and that
I agree.
Brick and mortar,
It's just, this is happening nationwide. So I just wanted to say that. But I also wanted to say, before we hang up, Monica, I wanted to mention Proposition G here in San Francisco. Because I think that's another proposition that I forgot to mention to you. That's a very simple proposition that we should mention tonight so that people can understand what's happening.
Okay.
But Proposition G was something that was put on the ballot they wanted to bring algebra back to middle school, because they took algebra out of the middle school because the kids who were not as advanced as kids who were more advanced, their thought is that if we don't have algebra in middle school, that the other kids would have a chance to catch up with the kids that are more advanced. So first of all, the board of supervisors put this legislation on to bring algebra back to the middle schools. And algebra, the board of supervisors has no jurisdiction in the school district. But they did this because the recallers, the people who are the recallers of the school board, wanted this. So the school board had put pressure on them. They brought algebra back to the middle schools. But guess what happened? They voted on it 2 weeks ago at the school board. They're going to implement it, but it's only going to be in 1/3 of the schools.
That's
And
so
you know
great.
it's 1/3. It's not going to be in all middle schools. It's going to be in 1/3 of the schools. So the kids that are on the southeast side of town, they're not going to even have an opportunity to take that. So they're going to fall further behind. So these are the things that this is why when you bring up civic engagement and paying attention to what's going on locally, these things that happen. These are the things that cause some of the things that we see now happening, because you're not.
I didn't even know that. I mean, shouldn't that be basic education, algebra? You know,
Yeah,
that's a necessity for people to just to
literally.
Yeah, you need to know math.
Math
Yeah.
is like more important than English in a lot of
And
ways.
the
Dude,
kids at those schools that are advanced are the ones suffering as well.
yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, no algebra in middle schools. Wow.
I probably would have
But
done. I probably would have did a lot better in
how are
school.
you going to only implement it in 1/3 of the schools?
Right.
Why are you creating
Right.
a bigger inequity? Why are you, if I can't get into the school across town on the west side and my school doesn't offer algebra, I'm just left behind. Next thing you know what they're going to do? They're going to say, well, if you took algebra in middle school, you can go to these schools over here because they're getting ready to build new schools in San Francisco. But if you
Right.
didn't take algebra, you can't, you're not tracked into these schools over here. You go to those schools over there. So all
Yeah.
it's doing is separating and causing more inequities and leaving
Yeah.
people behind.
Yeah, that's tough.
It is. Like, it's kind of crazy because like you're setting it back. Like we were already set back in school, literally, because like a lot of people, like even like people on the islands, they learned a lot of these hard math. And they're only hard because they didn't give it to us at a sooner age. You see what I'm saying? Like the fact is like the education system in the US in general, like if that is a step back, that's a big step back.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
I mean, we learned algebra in the islands.
yeah, I know.
That's crazy how in America, in West, should be the #1 country in the world doesn't even have algebra.
Well, you'll be able to take it in high school, but you'll never make it to calculus. And so then what happens? If you want to go to the STEMs, the sciences, you're going to be cut off in college.
Right.
Yeah.
See, this is a way to push people aside. That's what I'm saying. That's why you were saying local elections are so important. This is why. This is another example.
Yeah.
It gives us a better view of what we're actually voting for and what we're actually spending our time on to vote for. Because, you know, for the most part, like I said, like it's like having this view of the world, but only you're like putting your like binoculars on without taking them off. Like you're only seeing what you thought you could see, but when you take them down, you're able to see everything at once. And the truth is like there are gaps in our understanding of our governmental system and how it serves us. And that in general is just not fair. Like you're gonna have to figure it out and find it out on your own. But that's not equity. That's inequitable, right? It's like having a baseball game, right? Happen, and everybody that's over 6 feet can watch the baseball game, and anybody that's under 6 feet can't, right? So they're kind of just left there not watching the game like everybody else because they don't have a height. Well, all we needed to do was bring a box so they can stand on the box and watch the game like everybody else. That's equity.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it was a really good
play out.
Right. Cheryl, you still there?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so we're just watching systemic racism play out. That's all we're doing. The haves and have-nots. And see, people aren't aware of this, and then they don't really understand what's really going on here. But this is how capitalism works.
Right.
And so until we wake up, until we fight back, until we say enough is enough, we're not going to put up with this anymore. I need my fair share. It's not going to change.
Right.
And they pit one group against another. That's what they do. They pit one group against another. That's how it works in capitalism.
I think for the most part, it's definitely something like if we were going to start somewhere, it would have to start from our gaps in knowledge about what we have and what we don't have. Because you don't know you don't have something, you didn't know that it was there. Right? Like, I think it's fair to say that, like, most of us on this call here, like, we're kind of like unaware that there are these local and state systems in place that we are, we want to actually get to know a little bit more about. And, talking about these propositions has really bring up some questions. And I think questions are always great because if you're not questioning everything, then you're just stagnant. Then you're complacent. And Cheryl, like, I just want to
So
thank
the last
you.
thing I want to say is this. If you're not registered to vote, it's not too late.
Right.
You can go to City Hall, you can register and get a provisional ballot. You can still vote in this election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
You need to vote.
Right.
Because these things that we're talking about that are on the ballot are actually going to impact our communities. I don't have it. I can send it. Maybe Will can send it out on an email thread. I don't know if you have an email thread or a thread of any sort, but we have a voter's guide that's available to tell people what these propositions are and how they may want to vote. And they should be voting on this coming Tuesday, March 5th. Don't let your vote does count.
Right.
So even if you're not registered today, you can still register and get a provisional ballot. Your vote matters.
And literally when, we talked about this earlier in a earlier, podcast, Will, and I wasn't but when voting for this, yes, matters. This
and
matters.
I also want to say, know your rights. They tell a lot of people in California you can't vote if you are a convicted felon. That's not true.
Right.
If you served your time, you can vote. So don't let people talk you out of not voting. Your vote does matter.
Like, thank you so much for being on here, Cheryl, and like giving us this like breakdown and having this facilitated conversation with us. Like, what are your closing thoughts? Like, Will, Malcolm?
I'm sorry?
What are your closing thoughts?
I thank you guys for the opportunity of having me on here. It was very eye-opening because I wasn't really, I'm not a resident of San Francisco, so I didn't know about all these propositions that are going on. And it seems like there's going to be a lot of changes coming up and not for the best.
Great. Well,
no, I think my closing thoughts is just people just need to be more aware and more educated on this, so this is a great opportunity not only for me, but people on my platform, and also me just spreading awareness for people to know this, especially if they live in San Francisco. We know more about the national elections, but we don't really know about the local elections. But the local elections have more impact within your local community more than your national elections. So appreciate the opportunity to hear from Malcolm, Cheryl, Monica. Thank you for facilitating and planning this to bring everybody together. But I do see that it is an important thing for especially the people that's going to be affected within San Francisco County.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think that these are like the important conversations that need to be had, even if it's in like a limited time. Like it doesn't take a long time to like question things, have facilitate conversations, talk to different people about different things, and like at the end of the day, we like can find something that can like be not the entire answer to the problem, but there's steps to making a solution. And
Okay. All right. Are we good? Cheryl, final thoughts?
Well, my final thought is that Will, you have a powerful platform here, and from now to November, once a month, you need to have a political talk once a month, because there's things that help people to decide, because you need to educate them on things that are happening now that are going to even impact and influence them how they vote in November. And so that's my call. That's my call to action for you, is to once a month is to hold some type of political discussion around civic engagement on this platform.
I'll definitely take you up on that challenge, Cheryl. All right, sounds good. But yeah, Monica, Cheryl, Malcolm, thank you for making the time. People who did watch from IG and YouTube, thank you for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the conversation. And I do agree with Cheryl. We could definitely make this something monthly. Bringing all this information for people out there if you're looking for this type of content and value, especially if you live in the Bay Area, specifically San Francisco County. But that's I'm good on my end. Monica, anything you want to share? Your final thoughts?
I think it's great. I think Cheryl is like right on the dot. I mean, well, you and I both Tongan, like we are Pacific Islander, and like to be quite honest, like our community could really benefit from this, and like fully understanding the gaps in voter registration, what's needed versus what's good to know. And so, yeah, I think that this would be a great idea.
All right. Sounds good. All right, Cheryl, Malcolm, Monica, appreciate your time.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks
guys-
all.
You guys have a good night.
Bye.
Peace.